Not all NBA drafts are created equal. There's a reason why many smart teams purposely struggle on rare occasions in preparation for a once-in-a-lifetime game-changing prospect. Some class might even have multiple Hall of Famers, others zero. The 2003 class, perhaps the best we'll see this century, versus the pathetic absolute travesty of the 2000 draft. 3 total All-Star appearances, literally day and night. The 2010 draft didn't even feel that long ago. But as it stands, 2 of the 60 players currently belong in an NBA roster. Summer 2023, calling this class a disappointment an understatement. How's it going, guys? My name's Wilson. Towards the end of the 2009 regular season, worst team in the league belonged to the New Jersey Nets, a franchise worst 12-70 after the Vince Carter era. Second worst goes to Minnesota, a disgusting 15-67 record. Still no idea what they were doing almost 3 years after the Garnett trade. The Sacramento Kings, 25 wins, led by promising young rookie Tariq Evans. Washington's dysfunction past December, highlighted by the Gilbert Arenas gun incident. Golden State tied for 4th worst record. Rookie Steph Curry super promising. The college basketball season, highlighted by transcendent lightning fast point guard Kentucky's John Wall, the second player to win SEC Player of the Year, the grand prize labeled as Blue Jesus in the barbershops of Lexington, Kentucky. Even had a song named after him, the famous Dance and the Dougie, the consensus prize without question. Evan Turner out of Ohio State, National Player of the Year, stayed 3 years, super versatile at 6'7", can do it all, but not a very good athlete, a shaky jumper, huge gamble. Given his age of almost 22, Derek Favors, strong traditional big out of Georgia Tech, drew comparisons to Emeka Okafor and Dale Davis. DeMarcus Cousins, some consider the most talented, super skilled, a monster inside, a good passer, but attitude problems left him out the top 3. Of course, Sacramento ended up picking him at 5. The most dysfunctional franchise at the time. How'd that turn out? Wesley Johnson, the 23-year-old out of Syracuse, fooled everybody. A body frame like Scottie Pippen, considered well-rounded, quick feet, was absolutely none of that in the NBA. Of course, went to the Timberwolves. Golden State in between the Steph Curry and Klay Thompson draft class, the atrocious Epe Udoh out of Baylor. Pick 6, consider a defensive big. Greg Monroe, a bruising low post scorer out of Georgetown, failed to adapt in the 3-point era, out the league quickly. Al-Farouq, super athletic wing, physically gifted, became a solid starter for a couple seasons. Luke Babbitt and James Anderson, 16 and 20th overall, nothing special. Gordon Hayward out of Butler, a few inches short of hitting the craziest shot in all of college basketball, the 9th pick. The intriguing Paul George, the biggest mystery out of Fresno State, amazing athlete but not super polished, his hype all based on potential. Hassan Whiteside, supposed to be a mid-first rounder, fell to 33 out of Marshall. 2 other promising guards, Kentucky's Eric Bledsoe and Texas' Avery Bradley, former #1 high school player on ESPN's Top 100. A total underwhelming 4 All-Stars, Wall, Cousins, Gordon, and George, way less than the typical draft class. The 2009 draft, 6 total All-Stars, 7 for 2008. George, an All-Star, still balling at a high level 2023. Wall and Cousins' last All-Star appearance 2018. Before both suffered catastrophic injuries, the tragic downfall of both Wall and Cousins, both at the time in the top 10 player conversation. Starting with Wall, played his best ball between 2014 to 2018, 4 postseasons, nearly 20 a game, 10 assists, 2 steals for a respectable Wizards team. Given his ferocious play style, had numerous knee injuries throughout the years, didn't develop an outside shot in time, made All-NBA 3rd team 2017, the peak of his career, literally in discussions with Paul George as the best player in his class, 74 games played each of the last 4 seasons. A bad rap for partying too much and throwing teammates under the bus, top 5 in his position for just a brief time, left a lot to be desired. The Achilles tear at age 28 when he was supposed to take his game to another level. Aged his career 7 years forward. The soon-to-be 33-year-old, who knows if he will end up being the 10th man on a vet minimum, be done in the NBA for good, or end up being the next Stephon Marbury. DeMarcus Cousins, after known as an empty stats on a bad Kings team, no good vets to mentor him, found success with the Pelicans, formed an unstoppable front court duo with Anthony Davis, literally played some of his best basketball. 4 days before the career-defining Achilles tear, put up a monster stat line, 44 points, 23 rebounds, 10 assists, 4 steals, was about to change his whole perception, to all of a sudden becoming a shell of his former self, settled for minimums, became a journeyman, a torn ACL after, way too much to overcome, last played overseas in Puerto Rico, just age 27 when most of his abilities got taken away. Gordon Hayward played his best ball in 2017, 51-win Utah, 22 points a game before a devastating nasty foot injury. His first game as a Celtic, moments after the season tipped off, became a shell of himself, decent role player, still got a big contract with Charlotte, but misses lots of games now. Him and Paul George the only 2 guys still in the league from this class. Gordon viewed as a decent starter at age 33, set to make over $31 million for 2024, should be sticking around the league another several years, while PG himself also suffered a gruesome injury during Team USA scrimmage. Age 24, already made 2 All-NBA teams then, on his way becoming the best two-way player in the game, already in the top 10 player conversation. Since then, recovered nicely, a borderline superstar, one of the most polished offensive backs, an MVP candidate, 28 a game in his prime 2019 Thunder. Despite some nagging injuries here and there, PG simply accomplished, making first team All-NBA, defensive first team, a guaranteed Hall of Famer, the only guy set to make the Hall from this draft class. Barring some miraculous return from Wall or Cousins, highly doubtful. George has some good basketball left, idolized by many young rookies, although not named top 75, certainly a case somewhere in the top 85. Likely would have been a top 5 player several years if it wasn't for his leg injury. Every other player who's supposed to be good, especially Wesley Johnson, turned out becoming an absolute travesty. The 4th pick of the draft, viewed the biggest bust in this class, lacked IQ, no handles, perhaps having a mental block and never regaining confidence after struggling mightily starting out with Minnesota of course didn't help him. An epic Lakers tank commander, out the league by 2019, his most memorable moment getting crossed brutally by James Harden, a moment that sums up his career. Evan Turner, number 2 pick, way too high. After coming off one of the best college seasons all time, still had a 10-year career, Portland gave him a fat 4-year $72 million, summer of 2016 bad contracts. Philly realized he wasn't good enough, elected to trade him to Indiana to begin the tank process, needed the ball in his hands, never developed the jumper, a very below average athlete, often gets his shot blocked when driving to the lane, a jack of all trades, master of none, hard to build around, more weaknesses and few positives, most remembered for running the second unit, a bench guy for Portland, out the league by age 31, didn't get a proper exit after Corona shut down the league, an assistant for Boston 1 season, still made nearly $100 million for his career, not a total L. While Derek Favors last played 2022, age 30, remembered as a role player, a very solid starter. New Jersey traded him in the Darren Williams deal, 16-8 in his prime on a bad team, never truly made the jump to becoming a star. The strength and rebounding made him super intriguing, under the radar guy in a small market, became more of Rudy Gobert's backup after, a hard worker, last contract 10 days with the Hawks January 2023, hasn't played since 2022, made over $119 million. Epe Udo, new NBA fans be like, not so epic Hudo? Out of Baylor, hyped as a great defensive big, supposed to be a double-double machine, 6'10 with a 7'5 wingspan, was supposed to be what Draymond Green became for the Warriors, ended up a poor man's version of Mo Bamba. 7 seasons, his quickness never translated, ended up overseas dominating, no offense before returning to the NBA, 2 seasons in Utah, out the league by 2019 before taking his talents to Beijing, Italy, and Japan, super well traveled, recently named an assistant coach with the Hawks under Quinn Snyder. Next pick, Greg Monroe, a classic traditional big, never adapted, out the league quickly, never extended his range, only to end up being heavier and slow when he needed to become more mobile, played on a boring Pistons team, a funny time when Monroe, Drummond, and Josh Smith All played on the same squad under Stan Gundy, painful spacing, didn't excel with the Bucks in a perimeter-oriented league, zero quickness, his post-scoring simply couldn't make up for the liabilities, clogging the lane on offense while being bad on the other end, a disastrous combination that'll get anyone out of the league in no time, horrendous advanced stats, would have easily been in the league longer in past eras. Then came the Clippers pick, needing a small forward wing. Only problem was, they picked the wrong one. Al-Farouq at the time, ranked much higher than unknown Paul George, 2 picks after. 6 different teams, one of the more valuable role players for Portland, a typical 3-and-D. When signed with Orlando, his career went downhill, hasn't played since 2021, nothing too special, just a typical 8 pick. Other lottery picks, Cole Aldrich and Xavier Henry, both played at Kansas. Henry 5 seasons out the league by age 23 after rupturing his Achilles. 13 and 14 pick, Ed Davis and Patrick Patterson, okay role players. ED, a positive bench center, last played 2022. Patterson bounced around, a super poor man's version of Robert Horry without the playoff success, out the league 2021. Larry Sanders, most known for speaking up about depression and blaming head coach Jason Kidd for losing his appetite for basketball, walked away after 6 seasons. Luke Babbitt, Kevin Seraphin, forgettable names. Eric Bledsoe, considered a steal, a super athlete but unreliable, made 2 defensive teams, never became a knockdown shooter, often exposed come playoff time with the Bucks, still put up numbers, nobody interested after Portland waived him last season. Avery Bradley would have been a top 7 pick based on the incredible defense, fell off at Texas after being number 1 in high school, had the size of a point guard at 6'3". Brad Stevens figured out his role perfectly as a 2-guard offensively with no handles but a pest on D who normally guarded ones, became a super useful piece for Boston, even made defensive first team 2016, super strong when paired with a ball-dominant guard, but his play fell apart after traded to the Pistons, played for the Lakers twice, despite regressing. Frank Vogel loved playing him, still a good on-ball defender, but not great at switches, out the league by age 31, even Golden State waived him before the start of the 22 season, didn't miss a beat. Late first, nobody too memorable. Trevor Booker, empty stats of 10 and 8 with the 2017 Nets. Jordan Crawford, a bench scorer, typical ISO guy, most remembered for being a household name after dunking on LeBron in a pickup game sponsored by Nike back in 2009, more memorable than any of his NBA moments. Greivis Vasquez averaged 14 points, 9 assists in his prime, one of the greatest ballers to ever come out of Venezuela. Out the league after 3 games in the 2017 season, had multiple surgeries on his right ankle, cut his career short. Second round big man Hassan Whiteside, he culture resurrected his career until he got his payday, even Spo couldn't save him then. Last suited for 2022 Utah, still an 8 and 8 guy, but the attitude and lackadaisical play, 100% why he's out of the league today. Still more useful production-wise than a DeAndre Jordan, but a bad team defender, chase blocks for stats, a massive ego, which made him a second rounder, got humbled once after playing overseas, but after getting the big money, Whiteside a zero care in the world. Could still be a viable backup on a contender. For those that follow him on IG, Whiteside never posts any workout or basketball related stuff, just traveling, partying, and living his best life, a name many of you forgot about for a hot minute, lacks motivation, became Hassan wrong side. Bielitsa won a title with Golden State as a 15-man, now playing in Turkey. Landry Fields, now the GM for the Atlanta Hawks, a nice start with the Knicks, but had a terrible wrist injury that affected his jumper, had some nerve damage, tried to save his career by switching to his offhand, was considered one of the steals of the draft. Next pick, Lance Stevenson, a borderline all-star 2014, never found a real role outside of Indiana, but similar to an Evan Turner and Tariq Evans type guy, needed the ball in his hands to be effective, lacked the jump shot, his talent simply there, even led the league in triple doubles 9 years ago, but valued himself more as an entertainer than a basketball player, an absolute head case, super erratic at times, worked to his advantage, other times more of a locker room distraction, the definition of a classic street baller. Some notable undrafted players, Jeremy Lin took over the entire basketball world 2012, the rise and short-lived entertaining run of Linsanity, last played 2019 with the Raptors, would have been a lot lottery pick in a redo. Boban Marjanovic, the gentle giant, and journeyman Ish Smith, a record 13 teams played. An awful, forgettable class. Wall and Cousins prime literally cut short. 14 total guys played double-digit seasons. The 2 left standing, 9-pick Gordon Hayward and 10-pick Paul George. To put in perspective, at least 3 big-name players in the 07 draft still in the NBA. Kevin Durant, Al Horford, and Mike Conley. 2008, Derrick Rose, Russ Westbrook, Kevin Love, and the Lopez twins, for example. And way too many to name for 2009, a combination of stars with major injuries or players that didn't come close to living up to the draft expectations, and absolutely nothing in between. Sandwiched between the incredible 2009 and 2011 class, simply 2010 one of the most cursed drafts. Number 1 pick John Wall never even made the conference finals. Cousins played 2019 finals, losing with Golden State after thinking he was getting that free ring. Paul George also yet to make 1 finals. Which one of these players from this class disappoints you most? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.